Hello everyone, my name is Melanie Mead. I'm the Education Director here at SOFO, South Fork Natural History Museum. Today is our Dragonfly event. It's a very special day so that the public can become more aware of these organisms and their importance in the food chain, their role in feeding other organisms, and also their role as pollinators, helping to pollinate our food crops like berries and fruits.
We welcome you all to this very special day. It's our third annual?
Yes.
Third annual Dragonfly Day here at SOFO. Thanks to the Friends of Little Pond Greenbelt. This time during the agenda for today's event, we would have our New York State Assemblyman Fred Thiel saying a few words and proclaiming June 10th as Dragonfly Day. And unfortunately, he's stuck in Albany doing some state work that he was not able to make it today. So I just want to read a couple of things, in regards to the proclamation that was adopted by Governor Hochul just a couple of days ago. Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah.
Do you want to say a few words as to how?
Say we're here at beautiful Vineyard Field, and it's one of the best spots to find these dragonflies. They're small ponds. We have a presenter.
Annette DeGiovine is here.
She'll be talking everything dragonfly, damselfly, and taking us for a short walk into the field. We also have Children's Museum, hi, from across the street. And then we have our Hampton Library, hi, and the SOFO crew here making dragonflies. And we want to welcome everyone for coming and hope that you support the Long Pond Greenbelt.
Yeah, all right,
and Frank will read the resolution.
Yeah, so it's kind of long, but I think it's important. I was looking through it and saying, all right, what parts of the resolution should I cut out? And I don't think there is anything that really needs to be cut out. So just bear with me. It might take just a couple of minutes. It's not really that long. But this is the official resolution that was adopted on June 8th of this year, proclaiming June 10th as National Dragonfly Day at the state level. So, memorializing Governor Hochul to proclaim June 10th, 2023 as Dragonfly Day in the state of New York. Whereas the state of New York takes great pride in recognizing official days established to increase awareness of serious issues. Whereas it is the sense of the legislative body to memorialize Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim June 10th, 2023 as Dragonfly Day in the state of New York. Dragonflies are a sentinel species. Their presence or absence is indicative of the health of our wetland ecosystems, and whether harmful chemicals such as pesticides, nitrogen, or bacterial contamination and pathogens are present. Efforts to control mosquito populations with pesticides and wetland modifications disrupt marine and terrestrial food webs. Certain forms of wetland modifications may compromise the ability of wetlands to remain resilient to the impacts of climate change. More science-based studies are needed. Ecosystem services include flood and storm water control, surface and groundwater protection, carbon sequestration, erosion control, water and air filtration, flood and extreme weather event buffers, habitat for range or plant and animal species, as well as providing food and spawning. Wetlands are compromised when infrastructure is built directly adjacent to wetland areas. Coastal wetlands need room to expand and migrate inland as the sea level rises and severe weather event increases. Developments of tidal wetlands, dredging and hardening of the shoreline prevent important tidal flows that are part of the dynamic sediment systems needed to sustain wetland areas. Reduced tidal flows mean reductions in ecosystem services such as sediment retention, nutrient and organic matter recycling, storm, flood, and sea level rise buffers. Healthy tidal and freshwater wetlands not only provide ecosystem services, habitat and sources of food, marine and terrestrial animals, but provide resiliency to our coastal areas by absorbing wave energy, storm surges, and floodwater protection infrastructure, and saving lives. Freshwater wetland areas that are polluted by storm runoff, mowed or modified, will have diminished ecosystem services and biodiversity loss and may become breeding grounds of new vector-borne diseases that flourish as temperatures increase in the years ahead. Scientific nature-based solutions offer powerful tools for addressing climate change-related hazards, including biodiversity and ecosystem loss. Dragonflies, like damselflies, birds and bats, are voracious predators, but they are diminishing in numbers. It is imperative that there be greater public awareness of this serious issue, and more must be done to protect wetland ecosystems and dragonfly habitat at the local, state, and national levels. Now, therefore, be it that this legislative body pause in its deliberations to memorialize Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim June 10th, 2023 as Dragonfly Day in the state of New York. And be it further that a copy of the resolution suitably engrossed by transmitted to the Honorable Kathy Hochul, Governor of the state of New York, adopted in Senate on March 9th, 2023, thanks to State Senator Palumbo, and adopted into Assembly on June 8th, 2023. Thank you to our District 1 leader, Assemblyman, New York State, Assemblyman Fred Thiel. Thank you, everyone.
One of the reasons people should care about dragonflies is because they're an indicator species. They usually require pristine water. So if you see a lot of dragonflies in the water, you could kind of rest assured that the water is clean, safe for fishing. I've researched some ponds where dragonflies disappeared over time, and I'm not sure why, but then later on we found out a local duck farm was plowing excrement into the headwaters. And that was, I think that was Ford River, and it was declared kind of emergency state. But also I did notice that the dragonflies disappeared from that pond. And also dragonflies, one of the biggest things they go after and eat are mosquitoes. And when the dragonflies lay their eggs in the water, they live most of their life in the water, like from 1 to 5 or 6 years. And while they're in the water, they're eating mosquito larvae also. So they're basically carnivores, and they eat a lot of the insects that bug us. So, I mean, there's no bad, I haven't found anything bad about a dragonfly, only good.
And is there something that people can do to protect dragonflies in their neighborhoods and in their areas?
Yes, basically they could, you know, maybe preserve habitat. They do need water to lay eggs. So if there are like small water features, some of the smaller dragonflies and even damselflies will lay eggs in a pond. If you have a pond, usually if it's a fishless pond, that's their favorite place to lay eggs. And they will emerge from your pond and they will go after any mosquitoes or other insects in your yard. You know, it's just that they're, I mean, I find them interesting. I don't know if everybody else finds them interesting, but one of the things I like to do is I'll sit on the side of a pond and just watch them and see what they do. And I write in my journal what each species is doing, because I found they each do something different to protect their territory, or, you know, the size of the territory that they go after. But you know, I would encourage anybody to protect dragonfly and damselfly habitat, because it helps us with like an indicator species. Like if you see a whole bunch of them disappear, it would probably be good just to investigate why that is, and most likely there might be toxins in the area.
And for people who might be putting pesticides or herbicides on their gardens, is there something they should know about that?
Yes, well, they should. I mean, pesticides kills all the insects, even the good ones. I mean, I would say order some praying mantis egg sacs and put them in your garden, and you'll have a garden full of praying mantis and no pesticides. Or there are safer alternatives. You can also use some soap and water and spray soap and water to keep certain insects off your garden. But I mean, the pesticides eventually come back to you also. We had also heard about dogs having a higher incidence of cancer, and they're the ones that are closest to your lawn and your yard when they're running outside. So if you can avoid pesticides, I would say avoid them.
And are there any plant species or anything people could be growing in their gardens that would be good for these insects?
Well, basically, what Long Island has been trying to do is plant native species, because the native species hosts our native wildlife. And usually the exotic plants and flowers and things, they usually destroy the habitat for our native plants, or they're not a good host for our native wildlife, birds and insects. So I would say visit a nursery that is selling native plants, because a lot of them are doing that now.
My name is Elias Benares. I'm actually a practicing cardiologist at the Cardiovascular Consultants in New Hyde Park, New York. And I came out for a NET's dragonfly program to see the various species of dragonflies that live out here in the Hamptons.
And you talked a little bit about cicadas today. Could you talk about how you know so much about them?
Sure. I was 5 years old, and I was walking around outside with my father, and he caught a large insect and put it in my hand. I'll never forget the screech that emanated from it. And I was like, wow, nature's natural noisemaker. And for me, it was a source of endless fascination, which now I'm 50 years of age, I'm still interested.
Amazing, thank you. And you mentioned a little bit about what will be happening with cicadas coming up. Is there anything you think others should know about their emergence?
Absolutely. Remember, every year there's a natural emergence of various annual species, which we've documented a handful on Long Island that you'll see every year. And then there are the periodical species that are of high interest because they come out in mass emergence. And next year will be the intersection of two very big broods. One will be brood 13, which will be centered mainly around Chicago, of the 17-year variety of, it's called Magicicada species. There are 3 species. And then you have 4 species of the 13-year variety, which will be brood number 19. And this intersection of these 2 broods will happen only once every 221 years.
And is there something about cicadas that you think people have misconceptions of them, or something you'd like people to walk away from knowing? Sure.
They really shouldn't be treated as pests. A lot of times when they emerge in mass, people think of, I'm going to spray them, I'm going to eliminate them. It's probably the worst thing you can do. I think of it kind of like a passenger pigeon in a way. There are hundreds and billions of them all over, but they can go extinct really just like that. And I documented that actually. There was brood number 10, which once was very prolific on Long Island. It's coming out all over the place. And then when they came out in 2004, they seem to have really declined dramatically. So a couple of years ago I did the work to see if they came out, and I found them in Connecticut State Park, still hanging on, just a few specimens. But prior to that, 1987, it was a very large emergence, people actually complaining. So really, they went down from millions, if not billions of insects to almost none. They're just hanging on by a thread. Hopefully next 17 years, they'll be found.
So if people want to support their cicadas, what's a way they can do that and protect cicada populations?
Try not to spray insecticide that year, and try to be kind of careful and caring about them because they're coming up all over the place. Not killing them or spraying them or destroying them. If you have ornamental trees, that's one place where you can have some damage that can occur. So a lot of people will say to put some netting over smaller shrubs, smaller saplings or ornamental trees so that they're not damaged. The ovipositing is the damage. These cicadas are different because they oviposit live wood, the Magicicada species. And that can be problematic, and you'll see a process called flagging where you'll see kind of dying off of terminal branches of either shrubs or trees. And if they're young, it can be quite a heavy load for the small shrub or sapling to bear. So that's one of the things you can do, and to be friendly towards them and just say, hey, choose another ovipositing site.